Have you ever noticed fear doesn't shout, it whispers quietly? It controls your life without you even realizing. But what if I told you there's a way to turn that whisper into your greatest strength? Have you ever noticed fear doesn't always come with a reason? Sometimes it just appears, quietly, like a shadow behind your thoughts. You feel your heart tighten, your breath grow shallow, and suddenly you're no longer living. You're just surviving. We spend our lives trying to escape fear, changing jobs, relationships, cities. But no matter how far we run, somehow it finds us again. Because fear isn't something outside of us. It's born within us. It's the mind's way of trying to protect what it doesn't want to lose. The Buddha once said, the root of fear is attachment. When we cling to safety, control, reputation, even love, the thought of losing them creates the storm inside our chest. But what if fear isn't the problem? What if it's the invitation? An invitation to pause, to breathe, and to see what truly scares us. Not to fight it, not to drown in it, but to look at it clearly, like watching a wave rise and fall, knowing it can't last forever. Every time you face fear with awareness, it loses a little of its power. And slowly, what once terrified you becomes your teacher. Because fear doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to awaken you, to remind you that beyond this trembling mind, there's a stillness that nothing can shake. Stay with me. In this journey, you won't learn to escape fear. You'll learn to walk with it until one day you realize it's no longer walking beside you at all. Let's move into the first part of today's video, where fear is born and how it shapes our lives. Fear is one of the oldest emotions of humankind, a silent guardian that once kept our ancestors alive. Thousands of years ago, fear was wisdom. When a rustle came from the bushes, fear told us, run. When thunder roared or the fire burned too bright, fear whispered, be careful. It was not the enemy of life, but the very force that preserved it. But today, fear has changed its face. We no longer fear wild animals. We fear losing our job. We no longer run from storms. We run from judgment, from rejection, from uncertainty. The danger is no longer outside of us. It lives quietly within, shaped by thoughts, expectations, and memories. The same small part of the brain, the amygdala, still controls this ancient system. It cannot tell the difference between a lion chasing us and an email that makes us anxious. It reacts the same way, by flooding the body with adrenaline and cortisol, preparing for battle or escape. When this happens again and again, even without real danger, we live in a constant state of tension. The body becomes a battlefield, tight chest, shallow breath, stiff shoulders, racing heart. This is how chronic anxiety begins, when the body keeps fighting a war that doesn't exist. You might not even notice it. The restless nights, the unease before a conversation, the voice that says, you're not enough. Fear seeps quietly into everyday life, turning simple tasks into emotional struggles. But here's something we often forget. Fear is not trying to harm us. It's trying to protect us. It just doesn't know that the threats have changed. The amygdala is like an overprotective guardian, loud, panicked, and convinced we are still living in a dangerous world. And this misunderstanding has a cost. Every unnecessary alarm drains our energy. Every thought of what if pulls us away from the present moment. Fear becomes a thief, stealing our calm, our creativity, our joy. But it doesn't have to. The truth is, fear can also become a teacher. When we pause and breathe instead of reacting, we begin to hear what it's really saying. It might whisper, please slow down, or I'm afraid of being hurt again. These are not commands. They are requests for awareness. In mindfulness practice, we learn not to fight fear, but to observe it, to look at the tension in our body and say gently, I see you. Because the moment we recognize fear, it starts to lose control over us. Awareness brings space, and in that space, the body remembers safety again. Each slow breath tells the nervous system, you are not in danger anymore. The war inside begins to quiet down. This is not something that happens overnight, But every moment of awareness rewires the old patterns, from reaction to reflection, from panic to peace. Think about it. Fear has always been a messenger. It appears to show us where we are still clinging, where we still doubt ourselves, where we still seek control. Instead of pushing it away, we can listen. Beneath every fear is a longing to be safe, to be loved, to be free. The Buddha once said, "The greatest illusion is that fear must be fought." But in truth, fear dissolves not through battle, but through understanding. When we stop running from it and instead look at it with compassion, it changes its nature. The very energy that once made us tremble becomes the same energy that awakens courage. So next time you feel afraid, don't rush to suppress it. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, what is this fear trying to teach me? You might discover that it's not your enemy, but a part of you that has been waiting to be held with kindness. Fear is not a mistake in our design. It's part of our evolution. When we learn to understand it, we stop being its prisoner and become its student. And from that understanding comes a quiet strength. The kind that doesn't come from fighting fear, but from befriending it. Because in the end, freedom is not the absence of fear, but the ability to walk peacefully beside it. As we've come to understand where fear begins and how it shapes our lives, let us now take a gentler step inward, into the heart of wisdom itself. And that's what we'll explore in the next part of today's video. The Buddhist way, seeing through the illusion of fear. According to the Buddha, fear is not something we must destroy or overcome. It is an illusion created by the restless mind. Fear arises when we believe in separation, when we think life should always be safe, predictable, and under our control. Yet everything in existence is impermanent. Nothing ever truly stays the same. The Buddha called this truth anicca, impermanence, the ever-flowing nature of life. The moment we try to hold on to what's constantly changing, our youth, our relationships, our success, our comfort, fear is born. Because deep down, we sense that what we cling to will eventually slip away. Fear is not the problem itself. Clinging is. When we fear losing something or someone, we are not fearing the loss. We are fearing change. But change is the nature of reality. Like waves that rise and fall, life moves, shifts, and transforms endlessly. The more we resist this natural rhythm, the more suffering we create. Buddhism teaches that ignorance, avijja, not seeing life as it truly is, gives rise to attachment, upadana, and attachment gives rise to fear. When the mind wants everything to stay the same, it lives in tension with the truth. Fear becomes the voice of resistance saying, "I don't want things to change." Yet when awareness arises, something miraculous happens. We begin to see that fear is just a shadow cast by our own expectations. It's not the storm itself, but the thought of the storm. When we stop identifying with the mind's stories, fear begins to dissolve on its own. This is where meditation and mindfulness become powerful tools, not to escape fear, but to understand it. In meditation, we don't try to push fear away. We sit with it. We breathe with it. We watch its movement, its tightening, its trembling, without labeling it as good or bad. Like clouds drifting across the sky, fear passes when we no longer grasp it. The Buddha once said, "Whatever has the nature to arise has the nature to cease." When we see fear this way, as something that comes and goes, we stop fighting it. We begin to trust that every emotion, even fear, is just another wave on the surface of the vast ocean of awareness. The practice of mindfulness teaches us to anchor in the present moment, to breathe deeply into the space where fear appears, and to observe without judgment. Slowly, the mind learns that fear does not have to be an enemy. It can be a signal, a call to return home to awareness. Imagine sitting quietly and noticing the sensations of fear, the flutter in your chest, the tightening in your throat. Instead of reacting, you simply breathe. Each breath says, "I see you." Each breath says, "You are safe here." Over time, that simple act of awareness transforms the energy of fear into understanding. The miracle is not that fear disappears, it's that we see through it. We realize that fear was never a monster standing before us, but a child within us, trembling, misunderstood, longing to be held. When compassion touches fear, transformation begins. In the Buddhist view, freedom does not come from conquering fear, but from understanding it deeply. When you stop running, fear loses its power. When you stop resisting impermanence, peace naturally appears. It's not about becoming fearless, but about becoming free. Free to feel, free to change, free to live fully in each moment. So the next time fear arises, don't ask, how can I get rid of this? Instead, ask, what is this teaching me about my attachment, my expectations, my resistance to change? Because in that gentle inquiry lies the very path to awakening, the quiet realization that fear too is just a wave passing through the vastness of who you truly are. After realizing that fear is not an external enemy, but a creation of the mind itself, we move deeper into the wisdom of presence, where the mind can finally rest. In today's video, we will explore the next chapter, Mastering the Mind and Breath, the Zen way of facing fear. Fear doesn't actually live in the events around us. It exists in the thoughts we repeat, the images we create, and the stories we tell ourselves. Most of the time, it's not reality that terrifies us. It's our imagination of what might happen. Have you noticed how your heart races before a meeting? Even when nothing dangerous is present, that's the mind rehearsing disaster. The body simply follows. Zen masters understood this deeply. They taught that when we stop reacting and start observing, fear loses its grip. Meditation is not an escape. It's a mirror. When you sit silently, watching your breath, you see the thoughts of fear rise and fall like waves. And then you realize they were never the ocean. They were just ripples on the surface. Imagine for a moment you're sitting by a calm lake. A gust of wind comes and the water trembles. That trembling is your mind when fear arises. But the lake doesn't lose itself. It remains water. The moment the wind passes, the reflection returns clear again. That is the state of a quiet mind. Zen teaches, don't try to still the water. Just stop throwing stones into it. The practice begins with something as simple and as profound as the breath. Conscious breathing is a bridge between body and mind. When fear takes over, your breath becomes shallow, fast, chaotic. But when you breathe slowly, deeply, and with awareness, you send a signal to your nervous system. It's safe now. This small act changes everything. Your heartbeat slows, your muscles release, and your thoughts soften. Fear loses oxygen. In Zen, mastery is not control. It's surrender. It's not about defeating fear, but transforming it into clarity. The Zen master does not fight the storm. He becomes the calm within it. Because when you see clearly, you understand. Fear is not the problem. Resistance is. When you stop pushing it away, it dissolves on its own. There's a story of a monk walking through a dark forest at night. Every rustle, every sound made his heart jump. But instead of running, he stopped. He turned toward the sound, breathed deeply, and whispered, "Come, fear, let's walk together." In that moment, the forest grew quiet, not because danger disappeared, but because his mind did. Zen invites us to meet fear as a teacher, not an enemy. Each time you breathe consciously into your fear, you reclaim a part of your power. Each time you observe without judgment, you build inner stillness. Over time, this becomes your natural state, calm even in chaos, grounded even in uncertainty. When we learn to live fully in the present moment, fear fades, because the present contains no threat. Right here, right now, nothing is chasing you. There is no rejection, no failure, no past or future, only breath. And in that breath, you find freedom. So as we continue this journey, remember, the goal isn't to eliminate fear, but to see through it, to turn it into awareness, wisdom, and peace. And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of today's video. As we travel deeper into the journey of understanding fear, we begin to see something profound. The harder we fight fear, the more power it gains. So today we'll move into the next part of this exploration, the power of letting go when you stop resisting fear. Most of us spend our lives trying to outrun fear. We distract ourselves, deny what we feel, or force positivity on top of panic. But the truth is simple and humbling. Resistance is what feeds fear. The moment you say, I shouldn't feel this way, fear tightens its grip. It grows stronger because it's being fought, not understood. Zen wisdom invites us to stop running and start allowing. Letting go doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means meeting your fear with a calm and open heart, seeing it, acknowledging it, and allowing it to exist without judgment. When you stop trying to push it away, you finally make room for healing. Because acceptance is not weakness. Acceptance is awareness. It's the moment you say, yes, this is here. And in that instant, fear loses its authority. Imagine holding a rope that's pulling you into a storm. You can either keep tugging, exhausting yourself, or simply release your grip. That moment of release is what Zen calls buong bo, surrender, not defeat. The storm may still rage, but you're no longer being dragged by it. You're watching it pass from the stillness of your center. When you say, I am afraid, you're not collapsing into fear. You're shining light on it. And light always reveals what darkness hides. That fear is only temporary. The Buddha once said, whatever arises will also pass. Every emotion, no matter how intense, has a lifespan. It's born, it peaks, and it fades. Unless we keep feeding it through resistance. This truth is simple yet revolutionary. Emotions are like clouds, and your awareness is the sky. Clouds can darken the sky, but they can never destroy it. In the same way, fear can cover your peace, but it can never erase it. When you stop identifying with fear, when you stop saying, I am afraid, and instead see, fear is visiting me, something extraordinary happens. You remember who you are beyond it. Zen practice reminds us that letting go is an act of courage. It's the courage to stop controlling, to stop fixing, and to start trusting. You trust that the wave will pass if you stop fighting it. You trust that peace is your natural state when the struggle ends. And you trust that your worth, your strength, your calm, none of it depends on being fearless, but on being fully present. There's a quiet power in the words I allow. When you say, I allow fear to be here, your nervous system relaxes. You no longer send signals of danger to your body. Instead, you create space, and in that space, transformation happens naturally. Fear dissolves not because you conquered it, but because it's no longer needed. You've stopped fueling it with resistance. Many people think peace comes when fear disappears, but in truth, peace begins when you stop fighting fear. The letting go itself is the awakening. It's the moment when you shift from being inside the storm to being the sky that holds it. So as we move to the next part of this journey, remember, you don't have to destroy fear to find freedom. You just have to stop resisting it. The power of peace lies in surrender, in letting things be until the heart remembers its own stillness. And that stillness is where real freedom begins. As our journey deepens, a quiet realization begins to rise within. True courage has never been about the absence of fear. It's about walking through it with a steady heart. And that brings us to the next part of today's reflection. Becoming a warrior of the inner world, courage from within. In the teachings of Buddhism, and reflected too in the spirit of the ancient warrior, the greatest battle is not fought with swords or enemies, but within one's own mind. Every day we fight invisible wars, the war between doubt and confidence, between attachment and surrender, between fear and freedom. The battlefield is silence, yet the struggle is real. A true warrior is not someone who never feels fear. Fear still visits them, just like it visits all of us. But they meet it with calm awareness instead of panic. Where others fight to control the world, the inner warrior learns to master the self. They understand that control is an illusion, but presence is power. Training the mind is no different from training the body or sharpening a blade. A samurai would polish their sword daily, not because it was dull, but because discipline itself was the way to clarity. In the same way, mindfulness is the polishing of the heart. Each moment of observation, each pause before reacting, is a stroke of the whetstone. The more we watch our emotions, the sharper our awareness becomes, and the more gracefully we move through life's challenges. When the mind becomes still, fear begins to lose its shape. Like mist in the morning sun, it fades under the light of awareness. You start to realize that fear was never your enemy. It was your teacher, showing you where your edges are, where courage is waiting to awaken. To live as an inner warrior is not about being unshakable. It's about standing steady even while trembling. It's the art of breathing through discomfort, staying present when the instinct says run. Each time you choose awareness over reaction, compassion over anger, stillness over chaos, you win a battle no one can see. And over time, these small victories carve a deep peace within you that no external storm can touch. Imagine a mountain, silent, unmoving, surrounded by the shifting winds. The mountain doesn't resist the wind, it allows it to pass. In the same way, when your inner foundation is strong, no circumstance can uproot you. You don't need to fight the world to find peace, you only need to find balance within. Zen wisdom teaches that real mastery is not domination, but harmony. The warrior's mind is not one of aggression, but of precision, seeing things as they are, without distortion. They act with clarity, not impulse, with compassion, not fear. That is the highest form of strength, not the strength that overpowers, but the strength that understands. In our modern world, this is the kind of courage we desperately need. Not the loud courage that demands attention, but the quiet courage to face our own minds. It's easy to conquer others, but far harder to conquer oneself. Yet that is the path of true freedom. The Zen masters often say, when you know yourself, fear loses its home. Because fear only lives in the unknown. Once you see it clearly, it dissolves. What remains is awareness, calm, radiant, and vast like the sky. So let every breath become your training ground. Let every moment of discomfort be your teacher. Let the stillness within you be the sword that cuts through illusion. When you stand in your truth, fear cannot command you. You act not out of panic, but from presence. You move not to escape, but to express. That is what it means to be a warrior of the inner world. To live with courage, compassion, and clarity. To face each day not as a battle to win, but as a chance to awaken. Because the real victory is not found in defeating fear, but in realizing that you were never separate from peace to begin with. As we've learned to face our fears with the courage of an inner warrior, the next step in our journey is to discover how to regain control over the body and mind when fear arises. And that's exactly where we will go in the next part of today's video. Part 6. The breath of stillness, reclaiming calm. Through meditation, fear doesn't just live in our thoughts, it manifests physically, tightening the muscles, quickening the heartbeat, and shortening the breath. It's the body's ancient alarm system, preparing us to fight or flee. But in modern life, this reaction often triggers even when we're simply facing a stressful email, a difficult conversation, or a fear of failure. The body acts as if we are in danger, even when we're not. Over time, this chronic alert state drains energy and fogs the mind. Meditation and conscious breathing are the antidotes to this invisible tension. Through practices like Zazen, seated meditation, or body scan meditation, we begin to notice our physical sensations with mindfulness, not judging them, not trying to fix them, just observing. This observation itself sends a signal to the nervous system. You are safe. When the mind learns to anchor itself in the breath, it stops feeding fear with imagination. A slow, deep breath acts as a gentle whisper to the body, reminding it that the danger has passed, that it can relax now. Neuroscience supports this ancient truth. Deep diaphragmatic breathing calms the amygdala, the brain's fear center, and activates the parasympathetic system, the rest and restore mode. In Zen practice, the breath is not merely air moving in and out, it is life itself, the bridge between body and mind. Each breath is an opportunity to return home, to the present moment where fear has no power. Because fear cannot survive in the now, it only exists in the memory of the past or the anticipation of the future. So when fear arises, don't resist it, don't fight it. Breathe into it, feel it fully, without labeling it as bad. Notice how it changes, softens, and eventually dissolves. This is how meditation transforms fear, not by force, but by awareness. Try this simple exercise. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and take a slow breath in through your nose. Feel your chest and belly expand. Then exhale gently through your mouth. With each out-breath, imagine releasing tension, letting go of everything that no longer serves you. Continue for a few minutes, just watching your breath, returning to it whenever your thoughts drift away. You'll start to notice how stillness grows inside you. Over time, this daily breathing ritual reshapes the brain, making calmness your natural state. When fear shows up, your first reaction won't be panic. It will be presence. You'll meet it with a grounded awareness, knowing that within you lies the power to regulate, to restore balance. In the teachings of mindfulness, the breath is both the beginning and the end of transformation. Every inhalation renews life. Every exhalation lets go of fear. Through this rhythm, we learn that peace was never lost. It was simply buried beneath layers of reactivity. And so, with each conscious breath, we reclaim our power, calm the storm within, and remember who we truly are. A still and spacious awareness, untouched by fear. We've learned to breathe through fear, to let awareness calm the storm within. Now we arrive at the heart of true freedom, the place where fear simply cannot exist. That is where we'll go in the next part of today's journey. Part 7, The Power of Now. Mindfulness as the end of fear. Fear thrives on time. It feeds on what might happen tomorrow or what already happened yesterday. The mind replays old pain or imagines future disasters, creating a movie that feels real, but it isn't. The truth is, in this very moment, right now, most of us are safe. The air we breathe, the ground beneath us, the beating of our hearts, all is well. But because the mind keeps wandering, we rarely live here. We live in stories, in worries, in what-ifs. Mindfulness is the art of coming home, of returning to the only moment that truly exists, the present. It's not about controlling thoughts, but about noticing them. It's seeing the storm without becoming the storm. When we bring awareness to this moment, to the sounds around us, the feeling of our breath, the rhythm of life, we break fear's spell. One of the simplest and most powerful mindfulness techniques is called labeling emotions. When fear arises, instead of running from it, gently say to yourself, "I'm noticing fear." This simple phrase creates space between you and the emotion. It reminds you, I am not this fear. I am the awareness watching it. In that awareness, fear begins to dissolve. Not because you forced it away, but because you stopped identifying with it. Imagine your mind as a glass of muddy water. If you keep stirring it, analyzing, worrying, resisting, the water remains cloudy, but if you place it down and let it rest, the mud slowly settles and the water becomes clear. That's what mindfulness does. It doesn't fix fear, it reveals clarity beneath it. Try this. The next time anxiety strikes, pause. Take a slow breath in. Notice the air touching your nostrils, the rise and fall of your chest. Feel your feet against the floor. Listen. What sounds are here right now? The ticking of a clock, a distant voice, the rhythm of your own breath. Anchor yourself in these sensations. Each observation is a doorway back to the present. And in the present, fear cannot survive. Neuroscience confirms what the Buddha discovered 2,500 years ago, that mindfulness changes the brain. Regular mindfulness practice strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for calm decision-making, while reducing the overactivity of the amygdala, the center of fear. Over time, the mind learns a new habit. Instead of reacting, it observes. In this awareness, you begin to see fear for what it really is. Energy passing through consciousness, not an enemy to fight. And when you stop fighting, a quiet courage arises. Not from ego, but from presence. You realize, I don't need to control the future or rewrite the past. I just need to be here. Living in the now doesn't mean ignoring life's challenges. It means facing them from a place of inner stillness. You respond rather than react. You choose rather than panic. And in that choice lies your freedom. The Buddha once said, "In the seen, there is only the seen. In the herd, only the herd. This teaching invites us to experience reality without adding stories to it. Just this breath, just this sound, just this moment. That's enough. As you continue your journey of mindfulness, remember, peace isn't something to chase, it's something to notice. It has always been here, beneath the noise, waiting for your attention. So take a breath, feel this moment fully, and let the mind rest. The fear that once felt overwhelming begins to lose its power. What remains is presence, vast, quiet, unshakable. And in that sacred stillness of the present moment, you realize something profound. You were never broken, never lacking, never unsafe. You were simply unaware of the peace that was always within you.